A mafia boss installed cameras in his children's room. What he witnessed was beyond his darkest fears, a betrayal that threatened his empire and his shattered heart. This is a story of ultimate vengeance, hidden love, and an impossible choice. If you're new here, subscribe and comment your location. Now let's begin. The cameras were Don Valerio's secret. He owned the night, the city, and the fear in men's hearts. But he did not own the silence in his own home. His children, Marco and Stella, lay still in their beds, their bodies quiet after the car accident that took their mother and their movement. The doctors said they could hear, they could understand, but they could not speak or move. Valerio hired a nanny. Her name was Alina. She had soft eyes and gentle hands. He installed tiny cameras in the children's room, in the hallway, in the ceiling. He told no one. A man in his position could not trust. He watched from his office in the mansion, the live feed always on a screen beside maps of his territory. The first week, Alina was perfect. She fed the twins, she read to them, she changed their sheets with care. Valerio saw her lips move, talking to them as if they would answer. He began to relax, but on the 8th night he saw something different. It was past midnight. The house nurse, Lucy, was asleep. Alina entered the room. She did not turn on the main light. She used a small lamp. Valerio leaned closer to the screen. What was she doing? She pulled back Marco's blanket. She began to move his legs, not just adjusting them. She was bending his knee, then his ankle. She did it slowly, one movement at a time. She did the same to Stella. Then she moved to their arms. She lifted Marco's hand. She opened his fingers, then closed them. She did this for an hour. Valerio felt a cold anger. She was hurting them. She was twisting their limp bodies. He reached for his phone to call his men, but he stopped. He watched Marco's face. On the camera, he saw his son's eyes. They were following Alina. There was no pain there. There was focus. Valerio did not call. He kept watching. Night after night, the secret exercises continued. Alina would work with one twin, then the other. She would whisper to them. The microphone picked up only bits. Just a little more, Marco. You are so strong. Stella, my brave girl, push against my hand. Think about pushing. One night, she brought a small, soft ball. She placed it in Marco's hand and helped his fingers curl around it. Hold it, she whispered. Just hold it. The shock for Valerio was not cruelty. It was hope. A dangerous, piercing hope he had buried with his wife. This woman was helping them. But why was she hiding it? Who was she? He had his man, Paul, check her papers again. Alina Rossi, from a town in the north. Good references, a life that seemed quiet and clean. Too clean. Valerio knew about clean papers. He owned people who made them. He started watching her during the day, too. He saw how she looked at his children. It was not the look of a worker. It was the look of a mother. It was love, deep and sad. That sad love did not fit her story. One afternoon, she was reading to Stella. The book was a simple children's story, but Alina's voice broke. She stopped reading. She put her head down on the bed beside Stella's hand and cried. Silent, shaking cries. Valerio saw Stella's eyes fill with tears, too. The girl could not move, but she could cry. Alina looked up and wiped Stella's tears. I'm sorry, my little one, she whispered. I'm so sorry, it just hurts sometimes. What hurts? Valerio thought. He had to know. He called Paul into his office. The nanny, Alina, I want to know everything. Go to her town, talk to people, look at hospital records, everything. While Paul was gone, Valerio kept watching. The nightly sessions became more intense. Alina was now using warm towels on the children's muscles. She was teaching them to blink once for yes, twice for no. They were learning. Stella blinked once when asked if she liked the song Alina was humming. Then came the night that stopped Valerio's heart. Alina was working with Marco's right arm. She had it propped on a pillow. She was massaging the forearm. Focus, Marco, all your energy, all your will into this hand. This is your hand. You tell it what to do. She moved her support away, leaving his hand resting on the pillow. She didn't touch it. Now, Marco, lift it for me. Valerio held his breath. He stared at the screen. Marco's face was tight with effort. Seconds passed. Nothing. Alina whispered, for your father, Marco, do it for him. And then a miracle. Marco's index finger twitched. Then his whole hand trembled. And slowly, so slowly, the back of his hand lifted an inch off the pillow. Valerio gasped. A sound he didn't recognize came from his own throat. Tears blurred the screen. His boy, his son had moved. On the camera, Alina let out a soft sob of joy. She leaned down and kissed Marco's forehead. Yes, oh Marco, yes. She was crying and smiling. She looked straight into his eyes, her face full of a love that was fierce and terrible. And then she whispered the words. The microphone barely caught them, but Valerio heard them. He heard every single word. She whispered, "When you can move, I will have to choose your father's life or yours." The words hung in the silent office like poison gas. The joy in Valerio's heart froze and shattered. The love on her face was real. The care for his children was real. But so was the threat, his life or theirs. Who was this woman? Paul returned 2 days later. His face was grim. He stood in Valerio's office. Boss, the nanny, Alina Rossi, she doesn't exist. The real Alina Rossi died as a child. The woman in our house is using her identity. Who is she? Valerio asked, his voice low and dangerous. Her real name is Dr. Jessica Marino. She was a pediatric physiotherapist at the city hospital. She was married. She had a son. His name was Leo. He was 5 years old. Valerio knew what was coming next. He felt the floor tilt. 3 years ago, Paul continued, there was a shooting at the city park. The Carbone family was trying to hit a city councilman who was playing soccer with his kids. The shooting was wild. Stray bullets. One of them hit a little boy on the swing set. The boy died. It was Leo Marino. The boy was Jessica's son. The Carbone family, Valerio's sworn enemies. The war for the city that had cost him his wife, that had paralyzed his children. A war that had now, unknowingly, sent this woman to his door. She vanished after that, Paul said. Her marriage fell apart. She left the hospital. She disappeared until her references showed up for us. They were forged, very well forged. She is here for revenge, Valerio said, not asking. She believes I am the same as the Carbones. She wants to hurt me where it hurts most. But she is helping the children, boss, Paul said, confused. The cameras show she loves them. That is what makes her dangerous, Valerio whispered. She does love them, and she blames me and my world for taking her son. She is an angel of vengeance, Paul, and she is in my children's room every night. That night, Valerio watched the feed like a man sentenced to die. Jessica, Alina came in at the usual time. She went to Stella first. She did the exercises. She was so gentle. She told Stella a story about a brave little bird learning to fly again after a storm. She kissed her goodnight. Then she went to Marco. She worked on his hand again. Again, Marco, show me what you can do. And Marco, his beautiful, brave boy, lifted his hand again. A little higher this time. Jessica smiled, but her eyes were full of tears. Good, so good. She leaned close. You are getting stronger every day. Soon you will be able to do many things. She paused. Her voice dropped to a whisper the cameras still caught. And when you are strong, my sweet boy, I will have to make a choice, a hard choice, because your father, he is a bad man. His world took something precious from me. But you are precious too. So what do? Do I take from him like he took from me? Or do I save you and let the bad man go on? Marco just looked at her. He blinked slowly. Jessica rested her forehead against his. I don't know yet, she whispered. I just don't know. Valerio turned off the monitor. He could not watch anymore. His heart was a battlefield, rage at her threat, awe at her skill and care, fear for his children, and a crushing guilt heavier than any cement block his men had ever used. His war, his choices, had killed her child. Now she was here, and she held the future of his own children in her healing hands. He could have her killed. It would be easy, a car accident, a pill in her tea. She would be gone. But his children were improving for the first time since the accident. She was their hope. Killing her would be killing their chance. He could confront her. But what if she ran? Or worse, what if she decided to make her choice right then and hurt them before she left? He was Don Valerio. He ruled with fear and strength. But he was trapped, utterly trapped, by the one thing he never thought would rule him, a woman's love and a mother's grief. He made a decision. He would not act yet. He would watch. He would wait. He would protect his children every second, but he would let her work. He needed to understand her heart completely. Because the shocking truth was not just what she was doing. It was that he needed her. and she might just be the only person on Earth who could truly destroy him, not by killing him, but by making him hope again and then taking that hope away. The next morning, he saw her in the garden. She was pushing the twins in their special wheelchairs, showing them the roses. The sun was on her face. She looked peaceful. He walked out, his bodyguards, David and James, hanging back. "Elena," he said. She jumped a little, then smiled. "Mr. Valerio, good morning. Look, the roses are blooming. Stella loves the pink ones, don't you, sweetheart?" She looked at Stella, who blinked once. A yes. Valerio's throat felt tight. "You are good with them," he said. "It is easy to be good with them," she said softly, not looking at him, touching Stella's hair. "They are amazing." He wanted to ask, "Why are you here? What do you want?" But he couldn't, he just nodded. "Thank you for your care." The words tasted like ash. "Of course," she said. Her eyes met his for a second. In that moment he saw it. A deep old pain hiding behind the gentle Nanny's mask. She knew who he was, and she hated him. But she loved his children. The war was inside her, too. He went back inside to his office with the cameras. He turned on the live feed. He would watch. He would wait. And he would pray to a God he had long forgotten, for the first time since his wife died, that this woman's love would win over her hate. The tension in the mansion became a living thing. Valerio moved through his days like a ghost, his mind always split. One part dealt with the business of his empire, the shipments, the money, the constant, quiet war with the Carbone family. The other part, the larger part, was fixed on the screen in his office. He was watching a different kind of battle, a silent, tender war fought with whispered encouragements and gentle touches. Jessica, he could only think of her as Jessica now, continued her secret therapy. The progress was small, but to Valerio it was everything. Stella's left thumb began to move. Marco could now lift his hand to touch the soft ball by himself. Jessica had started helping them make sounds, working on their throat muscles. "Ah!" she would say, and they would try to copy, a soft breath of air coming out. One afternoon, Valerio watched as she sat between their beds, holding one of each of their hands. "Listen to me," she said, her voice low and serious. "Your bodies are sleeping, we have to wake them up, it's hard, it will hurt sometimes. But you are the strongest people I know, stronger than all the men with guns out there." She glanced, almost unconsciously, toward the door, toward where Valerio's world lived. "Your strength is quiet, it is real, we will wake your bodies up, I promise." And Valerio believed her promise. That was the terrifying part. He, a man who trusted no one's word, believed this woman who had sworn revenge against him. He had Paul dig deeper into her past. He learned about her son, Leo. He saw the hospital photo, a little boy with a gap-toothed smile holding a toy car. The report said Leo's favorite thing was swinging. He'd been on the swings when the Carbone men opened fire. Valerio closed the file. He felt sick. He had lost his wife to the same violence, but he had chosen this life. She had not. Her son had not. He started to notice other things. Jessica was thin, too thin. She picked at her food. She had dark circles under her eyes, even when she smiled for the children. She was living on a knife's edge, just like he was. The confrontation happened on a stormy night. Thunder shook the windows of the mansion. Valerio was in his office. The camera feed flickered for a second with a power surge. He saw Jessica jump at the sound of thunder. She was reading to Marco. Suddenly, she stopped. She put the book down. She looked at Marco, then at Stella. She started to cry, not softly like before, but hard, painful sobs that shook her whole body. "I'm sorry," she choked out to the children. "I'm so sorry. I look at you and I see him. I see my Leo, and I love you, I do, and it makes the hole in my heart even bigger." She wiped her face angrily. "And your father, he is out there, right now, probably doing the same things that got my boy killed. And I am here helping his children. What am I doing?" Valerio stood up. He couldn't watch this alone anymore. He had to go in there. He didn't grab his gun. He just walked out of his office and down the long, dark hallway to the children's wing. David, his guard, moved to follow. "Stay," Valerio ordered, his voice leaving no argument. He pushed the door open quietly. Jessica's back was to him. She was still crying, her head bowed between the two beds, holding their hands. "Jessica," he said. Her whole body froze. The crying stopped instantly. She did not turn around for a long moment. Then, slowly, she let go of the children's hands and stood up. She turned to face him. The gentle Nanny was gone. Her face was pale, streaked with tears, but her eyes were sharp and clear. She looked like a different woman, a wounded, dangerous woman. "You know," she said. It wasn't a question. "I know who you are," Valerio said. He kept his voice calm. He looked past her at Marco and Stella. Their eyes were wide, watching. They could understand every word. "I know about Leo." Hearing her son's name from his lips broke the last of her control. A fresh wave of pain crossed her face. "Don't you say his name," she hissed. "You don't get to say his name. Your people killed him." "The Carbone family killed him," Valerio corrected, still quiet. "It's the same thing," she shouted, her voice echoing in the room. "Your world, your stupid, violent, selfish war, you kill each other in the streets and children die on swing sets. My son died for nothing." She was shaking with rage and grief. "My wife died," Valerio said, the words ripped from him. "In that same war. She was in the car with Marco and Stella. She was holding Stella's hand when the crash happened. She died so they could live. I know loss, Jessica." "You chose this," she screamed, pointing a finger at him. "You chose to be a criminal, a monster. I didn't choose anything. Leo didn't choose anything. We were just living our lives." She hugged herself as if she were cold. "I came here to destroy you. I thought if I could get close, I could find a way to hurt you like you hurt me. I thought about taking something you loved." Her eyes went to the twins. "And then I met them." Her voice cracked. "They are just children. They are just like him, innocent, trapped, and I couldn't. I started the therapy because it's what I do. It's who I am. And then I saw them try. I saw Marco fight to move a finger. I saw Stella's eyes light up when she blinked yes. I fell in love with them, and now I am trapped too." The room was silent except for the rain on the windows. Valerio took a step closer. "You whispered to Marco. You said you would have to choose, my life or theirs." Jessica looked horrified that he knew. She glanced at the ceiling, then back at him, understanding dawning. "Cameras." "Everywhere," he admitted. She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "Of course, so you know everything. You know I'm a fraud. You know I want you dead. So why am I still alive? Why haven't your men taken me away?" "Because you are healing my children," Valerio said simply. "And because your grief is true. Your love for them is true. That is more real than anything in my world." "What do you want from me?" she whispered, exhausted. "I want you to keep healing them," he said. "I want you to finish what you started. I will give you anything, money, a new life, anything." "I want my son back," she said, and the simple, impossible wish hung in the air. "I can't give you that," Valerio said, his own grief raw in his voice. "But I can give you my children's future, and you can give it to them, please." Jessica stared at him. The hatred was still there, but it was mixed with confusion and with the undeniable bond she had formed with Marco and Stella. She looked back at them. Marco was looking at her, his hand straining. With a huge effort, he lifted it a few inches off the blanket and let it drop. A plea. That tiny movement decided it. "I will stay," she said, her shoulders slumping in defeat or perhaps relief. "I will help them, for them, not for you." "I understand," Valerio said. "But," she said, locking eyes with him again, "if you are responsible for one more child being hurt, Valerio, one more. If I hear one news report about a shooting near a school or a park, I will take them and I will disappear. And you will never see them again. And they will walk for me, not for you. That is my choice." It was the most terrifying threat Valerio had ever received. It wasn't a threat of violence. It was a threat of love. She would steal their future and their love away from him, and he knew she could do it. He nodded slowly. "There will be no more children hurt by my men. I swear it on my wife's soul." A fragile, terrible truce was made in that room, witnessed by two silent, paralyzed children. Life in the mansion changed after that. The secret was out in the open between them. Jessica no longer did her therapy at night. She did it during the day, openly, with a fierce concentration. Valerio would sometimes stand in the doorway and watch. He didn't hide it. She would ignore him, speaking only to Marco and Stella. "Again, Stella, push, you can do it. Move that toe, think about kicking a soccer ball." Marco, look at me, now say ah. Good, that was a sound, a real sound. Weeks turned into a month. The progress sped up now that the work was constant. Stella could wiggle all the toes on her right foot. Marco could say ah and eh clearly. He could lift his arm to touch his own face. Valerio kept his word. He changed his business. He pulled his men back from the front lines with the carbones. He moved deeper into silent financial crimes, things that didn't involve bullets on street corners. His men, like Paul and David, were confused, but they obeyed. The Carbone family, sensing weakness, became bolder. One evening, Paul came to Valerio, his face worried. Boss, the Carbones, they've moved into the downtown clubs, our clubs. They're telling the owners to pay them now, not us. They're laughing at us. They say you've gone soft because of the children. Valerio felt the old anger rise. The urge to strike back, to show them his power, was a fire in his blood. He looked out the window of his office. Down in the garden, Jessica was walking slowly beside Stella's wheelchair, helping her guide the joystick with her slowly strengthening hand. He saw Jessica laugh at something. He turned back to Paul. Let them have the clubs for now. Pull our collectors out, no confrontation. Paul was shocked. Boss, they will see it as surrender. Let them see what they want, Valerio said. My children are learning to walk. That is the only battle that matters right now. But the outside world would not stay outside. 2 days later, the storm hit. It started with a phone call. A warehouse on the docks, a place where Valerio stored legitimate imports, was firebombed. Carbone's work. Then, a favorite restaurant owned by Valerio's cousin was shot up. No one was hurt, but the message was clear. Your city is now ours. Valerio's phone rang constantly. His captains were angry, scared, demanding action. He put them off. He stayed in the mansion, his fortress, watching the real battle in the therapy room. Jessica heard the phone calls. She saw the grim faces of the men coming and going. She understood what was happening. She said nothing to Valerio, but he saw the question in her eyes every time they passed in the hall. Will you break your promise? Then the worst news came. Paul came into the therapy room, something he never did. He looked at Valerio, who was watching Jessica help Marco sit up with support. Boss, we need to talk now. Valerio followed him out into the hall. What is it? It's James, Paul said. James was one of his younger, hotter-headed captains. He didn't listen. He was angry about the restaurant. He took 3 men and they hit a Carbone gambling den an hour ago. There was a fight. Guns. Valerio's blood ran cold. Casualties. 2 Carbone men dead. One of ours wounded, but boss, Paul's face was ashen. There was a girl, a teenager. She worked there serving drinks. A stray bullet, she's in the hospital, critical. Valerio felt the world drop out from under him. A child. Hurt. He had broken his promise before the ink was dry. He turned and saw Jessica standing in the doorway of the therapy room. She had heard everything. Her face was white as a sheet. She didn't look angry. She looked utterly, completely betrayed. And then resolved. She didn't say a word. She turned and walked back into the room, closing the door softly behind her. Valerio knew. The truce was over. The choice was coming. He had to stop her. Valerio rushed to the door but didn't burst in. He forced himself to stop, to think. If he stormed in, he would scare the children. He would make Jessica dig in her heels. He stood outside, his heart hammering against his ribs. He could hear her voice inside, calm and soft, as if nothing had happened. Okay, my brave ones. That's enough for today. You did so well. Marco, you held your head up for a whole minute. Stella, you almost moved that whole foot. He heard the rustle of sheets, the quiet click of therapy equipment being put away. He waited, every muscle tense. After a few minutes, the door opened. Jessica stepped out, closing it behind her. She jumped when she saw him standing there. For a moment, they just looked at each other. The hallway was long and dark. Jessica, he began. I heard, she said, her voice flat and empty. A girl, a teenager, you promised. It was not my order, Valerio said, the defense sounding weak even to his own ears. One of my men acted alone. He disobeyed me. It doesn't matter, she whispered fiercely, stepping closer so the guards down the hall couldn't hear. She is still shot because of your world, your war. She is someone's child, Valerio, just like Leo, just like Marco and Stella. When does it end? When you have all the money, all the power, there is never enough for men like you. What do you want me to do? He asked, desperate. The man who did it, James, I will deal with him. He will be punished. You think punishment fixes a bullet in a girl's body? Jessica shook her head, her eyes shining with tears of fury. No, the deal is off. I warned you. I'm leaving, and I'm taking them with me. You can't, Valerio said, his voice dropping to a dangerous growl. They are my children. This is their home. A home filled with gunfire and death, she shot back. I can give them a real home, a safe home. I can finish their therapy somewhere quiet where the only sounds are birds, not bullets. They are starting to speak, Valerio. Stella said Ma yesterday. Ma. She was trying to say mama. Do you think she means me? Or the mother she lost to your world? I can be her mother now. I can keep them safe. Her words were knives, each one finding its mark. The idea of losing them was a physical pain. But the idea of them being taken by this woman, who loved them but hated him, was a special kind of torture. If you try to take them, I will find you, he said. It was a threat, but it sounded like a plea. You'll try, she said. She wasn't afraid. The mother lion in her was stronger than her fear of the dawn. But I've been planning this for a long time, since the day I decided not to kill you. I have a plan, new names, a place far away. You'll spend the rest of your life looking while they grow up without you. They'll call me Mom. They'll walk for me. They'll forget you and your empire of blood. She turned to walk away, back toward the staff quarters. Wait, Valerio called after her. He was not a man who begged, but he was begging now. One more day. Give me one more day. Let me fix this. She paused, her back to him. How? How can you possibly fix it? I will end the war, he said. The words came out before he could even think about them. Jessica turned slowly, her face full of disbelief. What? I will end the war with the Carbones. For good. Not a truce. An end. If I do that, if I make the city safe, truly safe, so no more children get hit by stray bullets, will you stay? Will you let them stay with me? She studied him, searching for the lie. You would never do that. It would mean giving up power. It would mean risking everything. They are everything, he said, nodding toward the closed door. You showed me that. I was blind, but you made me see. Let me prove it, one day. Jessica hugged her arms around herself. She looked at the door to the children's room. Inside, Marco and Stella were waiting for her to come say goodnight. She loved them. She wanted to be their mother. But she also knew, deep down, that ripping them from their father, from their home, even a dangerous one, would be its own kind of trauma. One day, she said finally, if by this time tomorrow the war is not over, I am gone. And I am taking them with me. Don't try to stop me or lock me in. It won't work. She walked away, leaving Valerio alone in the dark hallway. He went straight to his office. He called Paul, David, and all his senior captains. They gathered around his desk, their faces expectant, hungry for the order to strike back at the Carbones. I have a new order, Valerio said, his voice firm. I want a meeting with Don Carbone tonight. The room erupted in shouts of protest. Boss, he'll see it as weakness. It's a trap, he'll kill you. We need to hit them back harder. Valerio slammed his hand on the desk. The room went silent. I am not asking for your opinion, I am giving an order. Paul, you have a contact in their family. Use it. Tell Carbone I want to meet. Neutral ground, just him and me. One advisor each, tonight at midnight. At the old Greco factory. Tell him I am ready to talk about peace. The men looked at each other, stunned. Peace was not a word in their world. Paul nodded slowly. I'll make the call, boss. While Paul arranged the meeting, Valerio went to the children's room. Jessica was sitting between their beds, telling them a story. She stopped when he entered. The children looked at him. He went to Marco, bedside first. He took his son's hand, the one that could now lift up. Papa has to go out tonight, Marco, for you, for Stella, to make things safe. He kissed his forehead. He did the same to Stella, smoothing her hair. Be good for Jessica, he whispered. He stood up and looked at Jessica. Her expression was unreadable. "I'm going to try," he said. "Trying isn't enough," she replied, but her voice wasn't hard. It was worried. He left the mansion at 11:30 p.m. He took only Paul with him as his advisor. David drove. The streets were quiet. The old Greco factory was a crumbling brick building by the river. It was a place where many business meetings had happened over the years. Some ended with handshakes, others with gunshots. Valerio got out of the car. He wore a simple suit, no tie. He had a gun tucked at his back, but he hoped he would not need it. Paul walked beside him, nervous. Inside the factory, in a large empty space lit by a single hanging bulb, Don Enzo Carbone was waiting. He was a big man with a thick gray mustache. He stood with his own advisor, a thin, sharp-faced man named Rixai. 4 other Carbone men stood in the shadows around the room. Valerio had expected this. Paul had brought men too, who filtered in behind them. The air was thick with tension. "Valerio," Carbone said, his voice a low rumble. "You asked for this meeting. You look tired. Fatherhood's softening you up." "This war is bad for business, Enzo," Valerio said, ignoring the jab. "It's bad for everyone. It's time to end it." Carbone laughed. "End it. You are losing. My men are in your clubs. I bombed your warehouse. You do nothing. You are weak. Why would I end a war I am winning?" "Because you are not winning," Valerio said calmly. "You are just making noise. I have more money. I have more men. I could crush you if I wanted to spend the blood, but I don't want to spend it anymore." "So you surrender." Carbone's eyes gleamed. "I propose a division," Valerio said. "The city is big enough for both families. You keep the downtown clubs. I keep the docks and the north side. We draw a line. No more incursions, no more hits. A real peace." Carbone stroked his mustache, thinking. A peaceful division would give him what he wanted without more fighting. But he was a proud man. He saw Valerio's refusal to fight back as a sign he could take even more. "Why the sudden change of heart, Valerio? The word on the street is you've gone crazy for your crippled children, that you're afraid of your own shadow now." Valerio felt a hot rush of anger, but he kept his face still. "My reasons are my own. The offer is clean. Take it and we both prosper. Fight me, and I will bury you and every man who stands with you. But children will die in the crossfire. I am done with that. Are you?" For a moment, it looked like Carbone might agree. He glanced at Rixai, who gave a small nod. It was a good deal. Then Carbone smiled, a cruel smile. "I have a counteroffer. You give me the docks and the north side. You keep your little house and your little family. You retire. Then there is peace." It was an insult, a demand for total surrender. Valerio's men behind him shifted, their hands moving toward their weapons. The Carbone men did the same. Valerio thought of Jessica's face. He thought of his one day. This was not peace. This was extinction. "That is not an offer I can accept," Valerio said, his voice like ice. "Then we have nothing to talk about," Carbone said, spreading his hands. "I thought you had become a reasonable man. I see you are still a fool." He turned as if to leave. "My son moved his hand," Valerio said suddenly. Carbone stopped, confused. "What?" "My son, Marco, he was paralyzed. Now he can move his hand. His nanny, a woman with more courage than anyone in this room, is teaching him to walk. My daughter said Ma yesterday. That is why I am here. That is why I want the guns to stop. For them. For a girl in a hospital bed right now because of our stupidity. For a little boy named Leo who died on a swing 3 years ago." The factory was dead silent. Even the rats in the walls seemed to stop moving. Carbone's face darkened at the mention of Leo. He knew about that. It was his men's wild shooting. "Sentiment is a luxury men like us cannot afford, Valerio." "Then we are not men," Valerio fired back. "We are animals, and I am done being an animal. My final offer stands. Take the division and we walk out of here, or don't. But know this, Enzo. If you choose war, I will not fight for territory. I will not fight for money. I will come for you personally. I will burn everything you love to the ground to get to you, and I will not stop until you are dead. This is no longer business. This is personal, for my children." He had laid his soul bare in front of his enemy. It was the biggest risk of his life. Don Enzo Carbone stared at him. He saw something in Valerio's eyes he had never seen before. It wasn't weakness. It was a terrifying, absolute certainty. This was not the Valerio who fought for power. This was a father with nothing left to lose. And that was the most dangerous man of all. Carbone's pride warred with his survival instinct. The division was good. The alternative was a war of total annihilation, fought by a man who had just rediscovered his purpose. Slowly, grudgingly, Carbone nodded. The division, as you said, downtown is mine. The docks and north side are yours, a line, no crossing. Valerio let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Agreed. But, Carbone said, holding up a finger, if any of your men step out of line, like the fool who hit my den today, the deal is off. You hand him over to me, tonight. Valerio thought of James. James had disobeyed and hurt a child. He had broken the promise to Jessica. He nodded. You can have him. Carbone looked surprised, then satisfied. He held out his hand. Valerio looked at the hand of the man whose violence had taken so much from him and from Jessica. Then he reached out and shook it. The deal was made. On the drive back to the mansion, Paul was quiet. Finally, he spoke. Boss, James, he's one of ours. Are we really handing him over? The Carbones will kill him. He knew the rules, Valerio said, looking out the window at the sleeping city. He broke them. He almost cost me my children. He is no longer one of ours. They arrived home just before 2 a.m. The mansion was quiet. Valerio went straight to the children's wing. The door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open. Jessica was asleep in a chair between the beds, a book open on her lap. She had waited up. A small lamp was on. He walked in and gently touched her shoulder. She woke with a start. It's done, he said softly. The war is over, a permanent division, no more fighting. She searched his face, looking for the truth. And the girl who was shot. My man who did it has been handed over to the Carbones. He will pay for his mistake. The family will pay for her hospital bills and more. It is settled. Jessica just stared at him. The hardness in her eyes finally began to melt, replaced by a weary wonder. You really did it. I told you, they are everything. Tears filled her eyes. She looked at Marco and Stella, sleeping peacefully. They have a chance now, a real chance. They have you, Valerio said. Will you stay? Jessica looked from the children to him and back again. The hatred was gone, burned away in the furnace of the last few hours. What was left was grief and hope and a love for two children that was bigger than her revenge. Yes, she whispered, I will stay for them. Valerio felt a weight lift from his soul, so heavy he thought he might float away. He nodded, unable to speak. He turned to leave, to let her sleep. Valerio, she called out. He stopped. Thank you, she said. He didn't say, you're welcome. He just gave a small nod and left, closing the door softly behind him. The next morning, the sun seemed brighter. Valerio was having coffee in the kitchen when Jessica wheeled Stella in, with Marco walking slowly beside her, his hand gripping Jessica's arm for balance. They were both dressed, ready for the day. Look who wanted to come to breakfast, Jessica said, a real, unburdened smile on her face. Stella looked at Valerio. She opened her mouth, her face scrunched with effort. A sound came out, not just a sound, a word. Papa. The word was soft, a little slurred but clear. Papa. Valerio dropped his coffee cup. It shattered on the floor. He didn't even notice. He knelt in front of her wheelchair, his eyes swimming with tears. Stella, he breathed. Say it again. She smiled, a beautiful crooked smile. Papa. He gathered her into his arms, careful but fierce, kissing her hair. Then he reached out and pulled Marco into the hug and looked up at Jessica, who was crying and smiling. After a moment's hesitation, he reached a hand out to her. She took it, and he pulled her into the circle of his family, his broken, healing, perfect family. The Don had won his final and most important war. Not with bullets, but with a choice. And his prize was not a city, but this. His daughter's voice, his son's steady hand, and the woman who had taught him how to be a man again, standing with them in the morning light. Valerio ended his war with the Carbones, trading power for peace to keep his promise. Jessica, seeing his sacrifice was real, chose to stay, her vengeance replaced by love for the twins. Marco took his first steps. Stella spoke her first word. Papa! In the quiet of a safer home, the Mafia boss, the grieving healer, and the two children forged a new family, built not on fear, but on a hard-won hope. Thank you for following this powerful story of redemption. What would you have done in Valerio's place? Comment mercy or revenge below and tell us where you're watching from. Subscribe for more tailies where love and crime collide. The choice is always yours.